Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad. Tehami. Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has commended the exceptional bravery and professionalism of Pakistan's armed forces during the Operation Bunyanum Marsus. Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar, Defense Minister, Planning Minister, Army Chief General Syed Asim Munir and Air Chief also accompanied the Prime Minister during his visit to Pasrur cantonment in Sialkot. The Prime Minister said over there, let me quote, "History will eternally record how within few hours Pakistan's defenders extinguished India's unprovoked aggression with unmatched precision and resolve," unquote. Also, after offering the help to resolve the Kashmir dispute, US President Donald Trump feels Pakistan and India are getting along, and he further said, let me quote, "Maybe we can get them together where they go out and have a nice dinner together," unquote. On the other hand, we have seen Indian opposition asking Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi that how the ceasefire between India and Pakistan was reached. Was it reached because of US mediation? Also, has India agreed to US mediation as far as the Kashmir dispute is concerned? And also asking Indian Prime Minister, is there a shift in the policy as far as Kashmir dispute is concerned? Also, we'll be taking up for discussion Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar's important statements during an interview where he said a nuclear war was never an option for the government. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his first televised address after the ceasefire between Pakistan and India was reached, said India would not tolerate nuclear blackmail, unquote. We'll also be taking the analysis regarding this assumption on the part of Indian Prime Minister. Mr. Ishaq Dar in that particular interview further said ceasefire could be threatened if water issues were not resolved between Pakistan and India. We know for a fact that India unilaterally and illegally revoked and suspended Indus Water Treaty. Now the World Bank president has come up with a statement saying, let me quote, "Indus Water Treaty cannot be suspended. Any change or termination of the treaty must be agreed upon by both the countries," unquote. We've also seen Inter-Services Public Relations coming up with the latest updates saying 2 more brave sons of soil injured in Indian strikes on night of 7th of May have raised martyrdom. All these important matters are for discussion. For that, we are honored to be joined in the studio by Dr. Waleed, Rasool, expert in international relations. Dr. Rasool, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Also in the studio, we are honored to be joined by Mr. Zamir Ahmad Awan, Foreign Affairs expert. Mr. Awan, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On the video link at the same time, we are honored to be joined by Dr. Jamil Khan, former ambassador. Dr. Khan, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Rasool, when we talk about, let's begin with these latest updates by Inter-Services Public Relations and the kind of valor, the bravery, the exceptional bravery which is being commended by Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, also of the armed forces of Pakistan, all wings of the armed forces of Pakistan. First of all, I want your sentiments regarding during this particular entire saga of Marka-e-Haq, that Operation Bunyanum Marsus.
I think there is no any iota of doubt in it. If you talk empirically or through research sciences. For example, if we deduce on the basis of the deduction that what the hype was created by the Prime Minister of the India and the analysts were convinced that they have raised this hype that the Pakistan is the weak state, and this hype was given extraordinary promotion by the state-sponsored Godi media, and this hype was created up to the quantum that they were trying to take the political dividend on it. And when the Pakistan gave the befitting answer to this all rhetoric created by the media was having the set agenda, was the best answer. And it is not only accepted domestically by the Pakistan audience but internationally. Now internationally, the various top-notch newspapers, media channels, electronic media and press media, particularly the Guardian, the Al Jazeera, the CNN, they have all remarked as the remarkable this success of the Pakistan government and the army.
Right, Mr. Awan, what's your understanding when you talk about this particular exceptional bravery, the way the armed forces of Pakistan gave a befitting response to Indian aggression?
This victory was based on our visionary leadership, political leadership, as well as the military leadership, and the whole nation is proud of them.
And when we talk about that very coordination among all the wings of the armed forces, including Pakistan military, the Air Force, the Pakistan Navy, with very precise
In fact,
and calibrated.
in fact, the whole nation, we always call there is a diversity in our nation, but this diversity is our strength, and especially in this particular moment, the whole nation was united. The political leadership, the military leadership, in the military leadership, also the Air Force, Navy, Army, there was a complete harmony and coordination. The Foreign Office was on board, and they was almost on the same page, and every Pakistani was on the same page. Our media was also on the same page. There was a complete unity and harmony and coordination.
Right, Dr. Jamil Khan, what's your understanding when you talk about this very complete coordination among all the wings of the armed forces of Pakistan, the befitting response, your sentiments in thwarting this particular Indian aggression? What sort of a legacy do you think it's going to leave behind in history?
Obviously, we have made the history. Pakistan has made the history, and there are reasons for it. In fact, if we try and do the perusal of all the top-class magazines and newspapers and the foreign media this time along, and compare it with the past, this time you got a quite positive coverage. You got a realistic coverage, and from that standpoint, we understand and we know that how harmonized it was. We know how calibrated, calculated, articulated every act and every movement was really arranged. And then our roadmap started from the first National Security Committee meeting, in which about 17 points in the statement of the committee meeting was issued, and those 17 points became the roadmap. Most of the points were reciprocity. What Indians had done it, we just responded to it. But the important point in that was about the Indus Water Treaty, and we told the world, and of course it was in response to the Indian decision that they are going to keep Indus Water Treaty held in abeyance, and we told the world that stopping water would tantamount to the declaration of war. And that becomes very serious. There have been instances in the world, Israel, Syria, they had tension in 1950 until 1960, till it was settled, and Israel resorted to attack on Jordan while they were taking out a canal out of it, or diverting the Senegal, Mauritania, and likewise Egypt and Ethiopia, Nile River. So they've been having tension, but none of these countries declared war against another country. Pakistan, and rightly so, and well calculated, and in accordance with the legal international legal framework, they told that it's an existential threat. Existential threat, you don't only kill people with the bullets and the bombs, people can get killed through the other means. And then one of the means are they will deprive them of their rightful right of the water allocation. So from that standpoint, I think it was quite well calculated, and it was in accordance with the international law, and we did that. So from there onward, in fact, the world saw that once India resorted to violation of the territorial integrity of Pakistan and the sovereignty, then Pakistan had the right under Article 51 and Article 4, Sub-Article 2 of the United Nations Charter to really respond to it. And Pakistan really announced it and told the world that we reserve the right, and we have the right. We will choose our own time, our own day, and our own opportunity to respond to it, and we did that. So the scores were settled, and afterward, India again transgressed it. India again violated the international law, that they retaliated. So obviously the cycle started, and once the cycle started, the world got alarmed, and you saw that how J.D. Vance came in one day prior to the ceasefire. J.D. Vance was saying that, oh well, it's a matter of a matter between the two countries. They will decide between themselves. But the following day, the entire scene was changed once Pakistan showed its strength and its muscles.
This is exactly the point which is being questioned by the opposition in India, that how the ceasefire was reached.
Well, ceasefire was reached
From
because
Prime Minister
India-
Narendra Modi, and they see him completely silent over here, and they keep on questioning whether the ceasefire was reached with the US mediation, and is it a shift from the long-held policy by India?
Well, the Nick Robertson reporting from India on the 10th, that demonstrate the whole thing, and he reported, CNN correspondent who came to Pakistan and interviewed day before yesterday our Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister. So once he was in India and reporting the real-time war incidents, and he reported, besides other things, that what devastations were taking place, how accurate the targets were being engaged by Pakistan, the F-17, F-10, the GF-10 and GF-17, also missiles, and then drones. So combination of this entire operation and the attack directed towards India, it caused a lot of damage, and he was reporting there. And while he was reporting, towards the end of his report, the third or fourth segment of his report, he said, well, India approached Marco Rubio and has asked for the ceasefire. And then, day before yesterday, once the same correspondent, CNN, and a very renowned correspondent as a matter of fact, Nick Robertson. So he was interviewing our Deputy Prime Minister, Foreign Minister, and he asked this question. The Foreign Minister told him that, yes, he was told by the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, that India wants the ceasefire. So obviously, why should we refuse to it? We have.
Why is the Indian Prime Minister Modi silent before his opposition when they question him? Was it reached because of US mediation?
No, but they have admitted that, because Nick Robertson has his report, and once CNN reports, they have the proof. So obviously he approached another. Why they would not admit that it is basically a face saving. The kind of temperature India had really brought, and the way they had dealt with the false. In fact, they did a false flag operation in Pahalgam, and they did a false flag operation with the media. And I called in, I made my comments that it was the media genocide. The way media was pressurized in India, and they were asked to really report all fake things. India, Pakistani port was totally destroyed, Faisalabad, Lahore, and
Get your point, Dr. Jamil Khan, get your point. Dr. Waleed, Rasool, when we talk about this particular ceasefire, would you shed a bit of light regarding as to this particular history of ceasefires between Pakistan and India, and violations happen from which side, particularly when we try to see the track record? It was India all the time violating the ceasefire whenever it was agreed between Pakistan and India.
Actually, it is a 9th ceasefire between India and Pakistan. First ceasefire was on 1st January 1949, and it was stamped by United Nations, and United Nations military observed group was framed to monitor line of control. And any violation along the line of control will be monitored by military observers group stationed in Srinagar and Rawalpindi. But in 1971, India stopped to report. So definitely,
India did what? India did what?
After 1971, when there was a Shimla agreement, India stopped to report UNMOIP, United Nations Military Observer Group of India and Pakistan. So they were having definite position that they have to violate and they have to deceive United Nations. It was the first fault. Now again, when it was a United Nations was on the board and they violated ceasefire in 1965, and then was a 65 war, and again in Tashkent agreement. And again they violated the ceasefire in 1971. They supported Mukti Bahani, and it was Brigadier Shahbeg Singh who was training the Mukti Bahani in Bangladesh, and that resulted the first aggression. First aggression as per international law article 51, and Pakistan was divided in East and West Pakistan. It was the first aggression. And again there was a ceasefire line and the bilateral issue of the Shimla. And again India violated in 1984, they captured Sichuan Glacier. So there is the series of violations, the series of engagements from United Nations participation, United Nations guarantees, to the domestic or internal arrangements as per Shimla agreement that you called the bilateral, and again it became the international one on the 10th this April 200. So if you will see, there is the chronology, there is the pattern to have a ceasefire and violate, and then have an aggression against Pakistan. And this aggression was also a violation of the ceasefire.
So what about the facilitators and the guarantors when previously these ceasefires had been happening? This time around, we clearly see the US has come forth. It mediated this particular ceasefire between Pakistan and India, making primarily India to accede and concede to this particular ceasefire, which they can't even digest even now. They're not even agreeing. And by looking at that very first televised address by Prime Minister Modi, saying that Operation Sindoor is still underway. So
yeah, there is again bad luck of the people who have been killed, particularly the innocent people, Indian occupied Kashmir and the Pakistan. If you are not sincere with the United Nations resolutions, you are stretching to delay the resolution of Kashmir, and you are trying to the conflict management, not the conflict resolution of the Kashmir is the cause, and the other all things,
that is the cause.
I'll
come to this particular point. What about the guarantors? What about the facilitators who bring in the two parties to a ceasefire? Is there any responsibility that lie on their shoulders as well?
Definitely. United Nations main purpose to have an United Nations observers group of India and Pakistan. It was their duty to monitor the LOC, and who is violating the ceasefire line, they have to report United Nations.
Is there any mechanism? Is there any mechanism under that particular entire scenario that United Nations military observer group, if any party violates that and doesn't allow the military observer group to go and monitor the situation along the line of control, if it is happening from one side, what is the mechanism to hold that particular violator accountable? Because Pakistan has always allowed them. It is India from the other side which has not allowed them to monitor the situation from there.
Yeah, there is a chapter 7 of United Nations Charter. If any nation have an aggression against any nation, that chapter 7 will be implemented and all nations will stand with the aggressor. But that didn't happen, unfortunately.
Because all there is will stand with aggressor?
Aggressor. Pakistan was aggressor. India was an aggressor.
Right.
And he was not once an aggressor. There is a chronology of the aggression from first ceasefire till the last. It is a chronology. It's not the one. Until, unfortunately, the UN chapter that there is the geopolitics, there is the geoeconomics and the geostrategy, which keeps changing from unipolar to multipolar, and the interest is keeping the shifting. It is why that India has been never booked that how she violates the UN resolution and international law.
Mr. Awan, what are your expectations by looking at this particular statement by Prime Minister Modi that Operation Sindoor is still underway, and the kind of provocative statements and inflammatory statements he's come up with in his first televised address to his nation after that ceasefire between Pakistan and India was reached? Do you expect that India might dare to violate this ceasefire again?
I think that India has a history of violating all the agreements and ceasefires, and even that they are the defaulter to the United Nations Security Councils. I mean, we expect anything from India. One thing I want to draw attention, that the recent conflict between India and Pakistan is a very unique one. It is unprecedented in the history that the two nuclear states had a war, direct war. Generally speaking, there is a concept of nuclear deterrence, that if a country has a nuclear, achieved the nuclear power, his rival, his enemy will not dare to have direct war with him. But India proved it not existing. The nuclear deterrence theory is no longer existing in case of India and Pakistan war. It has a very severe complication for the rest of the world. Till now, any country who achieved the nuclear power, nobody dared to attack him. But India did do it. This means that India has some other motives. India is not a predictable country, is not a committed nation. They promise something and they break it. They sign some agreement and they violate it. Even that they don't respect the United Nations charters, they don't respect the Geneva Accord, they don't respect the human rights, they don't respect any ethics. So what you expect from them, it is basically very fragile ceasefire between India and Pakistan.
And do you think there could be a possibility with the questions that are coming from the Indian opposition as well? They're asking, and there is a complete silence when it comes to answering their questions, how this particular ceasefire was reached. Do you think there could be a build-up of pressure domestically from within India on the incumbent authorities there?
You know,
and that could lead to ultimate violation of ceasefire from their side?
There used to be, once upon a time, there was a country named India, which was a democratic and secular. But the extremist has hijacked this country. Modi and RSS are the extremists. They have hijacked. Now there is no longer democracy, there is no longer secularism in that country. So you can expect anything from them. Whatever the internal pressure, Modi has a power. Modi will use tactics and excessive use of force to suppress them. There is no democracy. It is everywhere. RSS is ruling the country. The extremists are ruling the country. So what do you expect from their opposition?
And there has been a categorical stance on the part of Pakistan Armed Forces. Pakistan Armed Forces, the professional one, they are committed to the ceasefire. That is what the DGISPR said in that very presser also. But if any violation happens, it would be befittingly responded to also. Let's jump on to the second very important. President Donald Trump feels that Pakistan and India are getting along. And maybe they would look, they would actually expect or take both the countries to a dinner and take them together. Is there a possibility? We have seen a statement by the State Department also that Washington is now focused on encouraging direct communication between the two nuclear armed neighbors, going out together to a dinner and US making it happen. What does that basically signify? And on what basis this particular feeling is of President Donald Trump that both are getting along?
President Donald Trump is a different personality. He is not a typical traditional president. He is a very, very unusual president. He takes his own way. He moves his own way. You know, he met Canadian new Prime Minister, and he has not mentioned about taking the Canada as a 51st state and making the Governor General. I mean, he has his own approach. He will meet somebody and kiss him and hug him, and he will forget everything, whatever he said yesterday, and he will start the new chapter. It is very much possible. He invite both leadership from India and Pakistan and have a good dinner and shake hand and maybe hug. It is possible. It is very much possible. He has a unique style, and he is a frank person.
Okay, what about the State Department statement where it talks about Washington now focused on encouraging direct communication between the two nuclear armed neighbors? I'll bring in that very spirit of mediation. If I understand it correctly, mediation is the direct negotiation with two or any of the two stakeholders. It is only the facilitation by a third party that is done. There is no decision making on the part of the third party, or which is bringing the two stakeholders or a number of stakeholders to a negotiating table. It is up to them to talk about the modalities and figure out the way through that negotiation and reach a certain conclusion which might be agreeable to them afterwards.
Please focus on the third party. The third party must be enough influential that the both negotiating parties will listen to him. You know, whenever
Listen to him to an extent that they are encouraging a direct communication.
Yes.
Okay. So,
That's
we are-
bilateral. And you are calling the direct communication means bilateral.
bilateral.
That is
but
bilateral.
in the presence of
But
the
the
third party,
mediation is
there is the
happening.
influence of the third party. They will dictate that you have to reach some agreement.
Well, here is this particular point I'll take to Dr. Jamil Khan. Dr. Jamil Khan, when we talk about the very spirit of mediation, the stakeholders in an environment or a facilitation by somebody or someone who is trying to mediate through those negotiations. So ultimately, it is up to those stakeholders to sit and negotiate, go through that negotiation process, and reach to certain conclusions which are agreeable to both of them. Do you see there happens to be the element of dictation with the third party when it comes to, because as compared to arbitration, there is no decision making by a party other than the two major stakeholders?
That's correct. In fact, at the end of the day, the nations which are affected by those decisions or agreement or any other accord, the two nations have to agree to it, to implement it. But basically, if there is some guarantor or if there is an agreement like Tashkent, Russia was the facilitator, but USSR was the facilitator, but it was transformed into an agreement. And that agreement, then UN is the depository of that agreement under UN Charter. So it becomes incumbent upon the parties who have done that agreement to adhere to that. So therefore, the responsibility of the guarantor, depending upon what is enunciated in the agreement, that also becomes a pivotal point in it. But the second thing is that India and Pakistan, India has always been propagating, and India has always been trying to bring the point in front of the entire world that it's a bilateral issue. Pakistan knows, and the entire world knows, that unless the multilateral players or unless the third party is involved, this matter has not been resolved last 80 years, 79 years, and then it appears that it's going to linger on, and the world cannot really ignore it because of the two nuclear neighbors. If they have the nuclear dagger on the neck of the humanity, that obviously would not be taken in the right steam, or that would be a worrisome thing for the entire world. And this is what had happened during these 4 or 5 days war. So having that understanding, I'll now try and just in two different stages, I'll try and explain how it can work this time around. Now, in nation states, it's only the powerful nation which has the edge. And then there is no superiority there, except if you have that much of edge. Like, for example, Pakistan this time has proved that despite the numerical number, which India has almost double and triple, despite the fact that India has about 636 aircraft and Pakistan has 300 and about 30 or 40 aircraft, but Pakistan has shown that Pakistan has an edge in terms of its utilization of whatever equipment and whatever aircrafts and whatever machinery. So the nations which has the edge, definitely it prevails. Now Pakistan now is being taken seriously because Kashmir matter was put on the back burner. Now that, since it has a flashpoint and it has become a flashpoint between the two nuclear neighbors, therefore the country, like the most powerful country, as I said, in nation state, it's the powerful country which prevails upon. So in this case, Donald Trump, the president of the most powerful country, he is prevailing upon and he is trying to mediate. His mediation means that if the parties who agree with Donald Trump after some time, after once he approaches, and then obviously if they retract from there, then there are consequences. We understand that the United States has its interest, geopolitical interest in India, and that is for the purpose of containment of China. We understand that the United States at the end of the day would also not like to totally annoy India. But having said so, the United States also understands, and that Donald Trump in particular, he understands that these two nuclear states, if we draw comparison that until the 9th of this month, J.D. Vance was saying that, these two nations can decide them between themselves, and, we have got nothing to do with it. And the following day, the entire table was turned, and they came in, they stepped in, and they started brokering that. That is because the world knows about the consequences if the two nuclear neighbors. And Pakistan was very candid and clear.
Dr. Jamil Khan, I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. I understand your point. What could be the possible manifestation now from here onwards? There was a question asked from the principal spokesperson of the State Department also about the attitude of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi being disappointing. He did not address that particular question as to the attitude of Modi, rather said that we are happy to see a ceasefire. That's what we are happy to see. That's where our focus remains. We want to see the ceasefire maintained. At the same time, we have seen President Donald Trump talking of expanding trade with both of these countries if they continue to engage in dialogue. We have seen a very categorical reiteration of the support by Pakistan's Foreign Office regarding President Trump's efforts to resolve the Kashmir dispute. What about India?
No, India has, in fact, two
Come back to you to resume this discussion from here. At the moment, I'll have to go for a quick short break. Welcome back to the show. In the studio, we are joined by Dr. Waleed, Rasool, Zamir, Ahmad, Awan, and on the video link, Dr. Jamil Khan. Dr. Jamil Khan, before heading for the break, you were saying regarding as to what sort of a manifestation, a possible manifestation when we talk about U.S. trying to play its part in the resolution of Kashmir dispute is concerned, Pakistan reiterating its support for those efforts by President Trump. What about India? What could be the possible manifestation and way forward in this regard?
India would try and avoid bilateral negotiation and reaching to some conclusion. And they've been always trying to avoid. They've been always hiding behind the Shimla Agreement and Lahore Declaration that it's a bilateral matter. But bilateral matter, India doesn't really negotiate. India has even walked out from the CBM. India has walked out from the back channel diplomacies. India has walked out even track 2 diplomacy. So where do we go from here? And India has violated about 15.
Situation is quite different, Dr. Jamil Khan, because there is an offer of expansion of trade by US President Donald Trump, and India must definitely be pretty much interested in enhancing the trade volume with America. So do you think, given that particular condition, it's a different story this time around?
That's right, but only trade incentive would not really attribute towards the resolution. Looking at the attitude of India and Indian Prime Minister, it would not only, although India has a lot of things on the stake and they know the consequences, but as I was describing in my previous segment, that the United States has a lot of stake with India also, because India, they have made it very powerful through the 7 agreements which India and United States have made, and for the containment of China. Therefore, there is a very thin line and to balance, strike a balance. So what India is trying now at this stage is that they will try and retain the trade part, but then this offer is really very attractive offer. Pakistan already has a very good trade with the United States. That's our best destination so far as surplus trade is concerned. And if we get some concession, in fact, that 10% tariff what has been imposed, if it's again removed, then Pakistan would be in a better position. Pakistan, then I'll digress from the main topic. If I say that we have to really have that much of goods and services to provide and to supply to the world, and more importantly, the United States, then probably we're in a better position. At this point in time, what volume we are having with the United States, now we can increase it, provided we are able to produce that. But that becomes a different topic. Trade is a good attraction, and then, but the bigger question is this attraction alone? Pakistan is very much willing to really resolve the problem through the negotiation of whatever kind. But India has, and no one less than the Prime Minister in a public speech has said, but I really have a different assessment about it. But let me first describe India as taken a stand in front of the entire population of India that, there would be only 2-point agenda, and then point number one would be the terrorism and terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, and number two, Pakistan administrative Kashmir. There's no other agenda point. So that means it's a nice non-starter. So let's see what the mediators say, because unless on the agenda there's a issue of Kashmir, there's an issue of Indus Water Treaty. Prime Minister Modi in his statement and in his official statement says that Indus Water Treaty, whatever decision they have taken, they are not going to retract from there. So there's a lot of slip between the lip and the cup. Donald Trump is trying his hard. He has made his speech yesterday in Saudi Arabia, and 3 times he has mentioned that what the beautiful job he has done by mediating and by saving the life of millions of people. This is what he said in the speech, because the 2 nuclear states were just fighting with each other, and he was able to bring a ceasefire. Now, Pakistan is showing a very mature attitude. Pakistan has to really continue with it, with the P5 countries in particular, and other countries in general, and more importantly, 15 countries, the members of the Security Council, to really this time move a resolution, and this is the right time, the mediator.
Sir, joining us on the video link, thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Waleed Rasool, expert in international relations, thank you very much for being on the show tonight. Mr. Zamir Ahmad Awan, foreign affairs expert, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.